a championship player in the NBA at some point, yes or no?
Absolutely, unequivocally. He is a championship player. He will have at least one ring before he retires.
I'll just give you a simple yes.
Okay, that's fine. We asked for the one-word answer. It's all good. I know Roy has the gift of gab. It's all good.
I didn't hear the one-word part.
To get it, and Clib, from your scouting, and you know everything there is to know about these guys, is there a harder worker in this draft than Kevin Durant?
I'm going to say there probably is, because if Kevin Durant was that diligent a worker, his body would be stronger than it is right now.
But he's still only 12 years old, Clib. I mean, he'll grow into that body. I mean, look at Kevin Garnett when he was drafted.
But if he was a butt kicker, he would be up to 235 right now. I love the guy. I had him as the number one player in the draft.
It's all about genes. You know, if he ends up being Kevin, I think he's Kevin Garnett with more range. So he could still be a big, wiry player. I don't know if he's got to be, you know, an Adonis in order to be a hard-working player. I think that's just his genes and his body. But I agree with you. I think that, you know, maybe there's probably somebody who's a harder worker, but he made a lot of improvement. He spent a lot of time in the weight room at Texas. He is bigger and stronger than he was when he came out of high school. But again, he's 1 year out of high school. This kid is, you know, we're not going to measure his biceps. We're going to try to measure him for championship rings.
A lot of folks made a big deal that he couldn't bench press 185 pounds. And that really doesn't mean much to me. I mean, George Gervin, I'm not sure he ever was able to do that.
Contest, right?
Exactly. I mean, this guy has a game. And again, we're talking 1 year out of high school. I'm so glad that he went to school, that they instituted that rule, because if they didn't, we wouldn't know for sure what Kevin Durant's identity would be. Now we know he's a double-double machine who can do it on the offensive end and can do it on the defensive end. There's less guesswork involved.
And Rick,
It's funny, we haven't even spoken about his below-average jump shot, which a lot of people have been highlighting. What do you think of that, Rick Campbell?
What?
You ready to bring this guy in, and he shoots like that?
Did Avery Johnson eventually get that jumper down, and didn't it help the Spurs win a championship in 1999?
He actually didn't get the jumper down, but he did lead them to it.
If you tell me that Mike Conley Jr. has the work ethic and the focus of Avery Johnson, then perhaps I'll go with you there. But it took him a while, and he didn't even start with the tools that Mike Conley Jr. has, and he developed himself into that player. Yes, a lot of players come into the NBA and get better, so Mike Conley Jr. is going to have to be one of those guys that does that early. The thing he should be doing all summer is working on his jump shot. What I worry about is that in a place like Memphis, they didn't need another kid coming in there. They needed somebody with a little bit of gravitas, and I'm just not sure that he's ready to become a leader on a team that really needs someone to step up and take a leadership role.
I just want to get a T.O. What's gravitas?
It's you know, elevation of just being good, just being smart, just being a proud big person.
Okay, gravitas.
Gravitas.
I'm
you gave me a meritorious in the 6 o'clock show. It's a veritable thesaurus going on right now. And listen, Avery Johnson just became a non-fan of yours because he did get that jump shot going. Remember they'd sag off him all the time?
He got 27 three-pointers his entire NBA career.
I'm not saying threes. I'm saying the 15-footer that they leave you open for. Anyway, we got to move on.
And the one that won the first San Antonio championship.
That's what I'm saying, man. I think Mike Conley Jr. can find the J. Junior J, you get it? All right, let's move on to a... Right now, I said it at the top. I'll say it again. Let's just get right into this. I thought the Seattle Supersonics should have taken Corey Brewer with that pick. I like him more than Jeff Green. I think he's got more upside than Jeff Green. Green may be more ready to play today. I think Brewer's going to have the better career. Do you agree or disagree?
Disagree. I am a Jeff Green guy. I think he can emerge as a great number 2 player. And
really? An 18-point-per-game guy, that kind of thing?
I'm going to go with a 15, 7, and 3.5 or 4 assist-a-game guy.
So Tayshaun Prince-ish?
I'm going to say a junior Lamar Odom-ish.
Okay.
The guy knows how to play.
Don't you ever ish me again.
I'm going to be ishing for a while. I think something that's often underrated is chemistry. We talk about just throwing players together in trades. Oh, they're going to have a great 2, 3, and 4-man. But you need glue guys, chemistry guys. And Jeff Green is the epitome of that. He can make other players around him better, and he doesn't even need to take shots to impact the game. I think he could have been superimposed on almost any of the 30 teams and be a potentially impacting player. Again, doesn't have to score to do that. He's got the maturity, the poise, and he's got the basketball IQ. Again, my contention is, had he gone to another Big East school, he might have been just another good player. But by playing in the John Thompson III, Princeton-style offense, he tacked at least 30 to 40 points on his basketball IQ.
Roy S.
I'll list him at 6'8", but again, it's with the intelligence that he just, it doesn't matter if he's 6'8" or 6'9".
Who cares?
The guy gets the job done. I remember in '99 when Elton Brand came out, people said, it's a little small for the post. Elton Brand's a stud, 20 and 10 career averages. Doesn't matter with Jeff Green. The guy's a player.
I mean, Jeff.
The thing I want to see about Durant, and as much as I praise him, I have him the #1 player in the draft, I think the greats, the elite, end up being very good distributors of the ball also. I think he only averaged about 1.2 assists per game. So that's what I want to see over his first couple years in the league. When he's filling up a stat sheet, is he also going to get you 3.5, 4 assists a game?
Well, part of that.
Klibanoff, do you agree?
Not so sure, Rick Hamill. I know you're a Minnesota fan. I know you're a Minnesota guy. By playing in a very system-oriented program, you're allowed to explore certain elements of your game, but you can't tell me now what he's going to be like at the NBA level. I just don't know. He's
a dogged defender. How about that for starters?
A dogged defender. So is this a starter? Is this a 16-minute-a-game guy? Is this Tayshaun Prince-ish? What is he going to be? I just don't know right now. It's just there's a lot of uncertainty. I think he can play the tall 2 guard. A lot of people viewed him as a small forward. He's listed at 6'9". By Florida, I think he came in at 6'7.5", so he's a little bit smaller. He's not really very well built. He's about 185 pounds, but he does know how to...
Can he bench press 185? Just
Can
curious.
he bench press his own weight? I don't know.
Just curious.
But he knows how to play light, like a Kevin Martin or a Rip Hamilton, but I just don't know what his offensive upside is. He needs to work a little bit on his perimeter shooting. He's good in a lot of departments, but he's not great in any. And people. Brandon Wright is a guy who everyone talks about his upside potential. It's a word just used ad nauseum. I think with that...
It means when you don't know nothing. You just say he got upside. He looks pretty on the showroom floor. That's what upside is.
As much upside as he has, I think he's got a commensurate amount of bustability. This is a guy 7, 8 years down the road. When we're looking at the draft list, we're like, wow, Brandon Wright? He was a lottery pick? It's at 6'9", only 205 pounds. He can get pushed around in the low post if he's playing the power forward spot. He's not skilled enough to play the 3 spot. He's just a bundle of athleticism, energy, and agility, but I don't see pure basketball talent from this guy. And that's a problem because that's what a young team needs from a lottery pick.
You think they should have gone Hawes here instead of Noah?
Hawes is still a couple of years away. I think the 3 years that the tour of duty that Noah did at Florida has him much more prepared to contribute. Perhaps Hawes becomes the better player down the road, but this team does need an upgrade as far as physicality from Nocioni, who I feel is a small forward who is playing more or less at the 4 spot. I like the way you can integrate Noah with Ben Wallace. I don't love Noah, but I'm starting to like him and appreciate him more because I think that exuberance and that energy will be welcomed and it'll be able to be meshed very well. He's a guy who's going to bring his hard hat to practice, and I think Skiles will get the best out of him. I think so. I believe he's actually developed and he's become a much more mature player, and his understanding of professionalism. It's not just the game of basketball, but it's the profession of basketball. And he's got a mindset. He's an intelligent guy. He's been through a lot. He's a worldly guy. So he'll have his eccentric personality, but he's also going to have his diligence and his know-how.
And let's face.
So give me sort of a favorable comparison of an NBA guy right now so I can get an idea of, sort of a stat line from this guy and sort of a career from this guy. Because for me, who basically watches nothing but NBA basketball, I played 1 year at Washington. I'm sorry, I'm not watching Pac-10 basketball. Give me the deal.
A Vlade Divac type of player, but he's going to need to get stronger. He's going to need to be a better rebounder. But how Vlade was such a good passer from the high post and the low post, he had that skill set. That's what this could become. But again, 1 year of college, he's just on his way to forging that identity. And great hands. This guy has outstanding hands.
Who knows? Maybe the...
But it does tell you that there's a big brain on Spencer Hawes, that he's thinking beyond the court. He's thinking politics and stuff like that. Or does that mean he has a big brain? I don't know.
Let's move on. Come on.
That's all you got. All right, we're going to break right now.
This could be a case where the 20th pick ends up being, or the 21st pick ends up being better than the 12th pick down the road.
Good point. Good point. Thaddeus Young out of Georgia Tech. One of the great things about the draft and this kind of thing is the debates, the differences of opinion. And we're not going to know tonight. You're just going to have to stay tuned and find out who's right, Kamla or Clib. All right, right now, let's get it out to the Garden once again on...
I don't think this is going to affect Sino-American relations. I mean, the guy can play basketball. Let's get him out there. If he fits in with Bogut, great. If not, we'll move him.
I have not seen or heard that hyphenated term since my days as a history major at the University of Minnesota. Sino-American relations. Listen. The question is, the Pistons felt like they maybe needed a backup point guard. Is Stuckey a point guard, or is he a combo guard, or is he a two?
Rick, there are combination guards who aren't talented enough to hold down either backcourt spot. Then you've got the combo guards who can competently fill in as point guards and shooting guards. I say Stuckey is in the latter category. He's a guy who can get you assists, but he's a great scorer. He was 7th in the country this year, but he made a bunch of bad players significantly better. So he's a guy who I think over the next couple of years, as he gets more mature and gets more acclimated to the NBA game, he's really going to be able to contribute and help them. And the way they run their organization, you don't need a defined pure point guard. It's okay to have these combos out there.
When you
Theo Ratliff type, a shot blocker extraordinaire. Also, what I love about this, it fits the need exactly for what the Nets need. Their inside post defense is not good at all. There's no energy nor liveliness. Kristich, you know, and Collins. Yeah, I mean, this is what they really need. They had Mikey Moore to do a little bit of that energy, liveliness shtick, but this is a guy who can really get the job done, blocking shots in the low post. He fits perfectly there. Great selection. It's a guy who's played at a very high international level, a competent two guard, can shoot the ball. I don't like his physicality or lack thereof. This is not a guy who's going to be slashing into the lane, taking hits, getting knocked on his butt, getting right back up. I just think he's got some of that European affectation to his game that I need to see him iron out quite a bit. So
I completely agree with you. I think he's a shooter and not much else, but maybe that's all Golden State was looking for here.
I mean, who knows?
Atlanta, you got a monster.